Hello, this is Bill with my August wrap-up video. So for August, Criminali created the event Garb August, where it was all about reading trash. So when I first heard about this event, I was thinking, why would I want to read boring trash when there's so many good books I could be reading? But turns out there's lots of trash that's enjoyable to read. But then Sean D. Standfast and Mark from Book Time with Elvis created the event August of Adventures. So I decided to read the books they had picked out for August of Adventures instead of reading trash. So first was Treasure Island. So I read this many years ago in the 60s or early 70s. And then I had fond memories of it, but I didn't remember any details. So I think I read many novels back in those days involving sailing ships and pirates. But on this reread, it was an okay book, but not overly exciting. And then next I read The Lost World, but I didn't get to the other stories yet, so I still have most of this book left to read. I don't know if I read this before many years ago. I don't specifically remember it, but aspects of the story seemed a little bit familiar. But then maybe that's because I read lots of Lost World type books. Then Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This was my most enjoyable read for August of Adventures. So I'd read this probably in the early 70s, and then again maybe 5 years ago. So this was at least my third reread of this. It was a very enjoyable story. And then I read King Solomon's Mines by Henry Rider Haggard. So this was sort of a boring read. I probably never read it before. This was probably my first read. But Also, aspects of the story seem slightly familiar, but probably because this is mainly where the idea of lost worlds came from, that many authors used later on. So there was one paragraph in here that reminded me of the idea of fractals. So sometimes the stalagmites below took strange forms, presumably when the dropping of the water had not always been on the same spot. Thus one huge mass, which must have weighed 100 tons or so, was in the shape of a pulpit, beautifully fretted over outside with a design that looked like lace. Others resembled strange beasts, and on the side of the cave were fan-like ivory tracings, such as frost leaves upon a pane. Out of the vast main aisle there opened here and there smaller caves. Exactly, Sir Henry said, as chapels open out of great cathedrals. Some were large, but one or two, and this is a wonderful instance of how nature carries out her handiwork by the same unvarying laws, utterly irrespective of size. Were tiny. One little nook, for instance, was no larger than an unusually big dollhouse, and yet it might have been a model of the whole place, for the water dropped, tiny icicles of lime hung, and spar columns were forming in just the same way. So I just read 2 paragraphs there. I started on the one above my mark, but it was the paragraph that below the mark that I was thinking of, that has a fractal-like explanation of the cave. Then I read Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. So this was a good reread, but I think I enjoyed it more in my childhood. So that's all for this video. See you in the next one.